Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics and the Metawatch for the 27th of October. We're in an interesting position because we are between balanced data slates, but clearly most people have seen, hopefully, the WCW balance update that has come out. And if not, I've done a video covering those changes. And at the moment, there are a mixture of events adopting that for practice ahead of the World Championships of Warhammer, and some events that are not. So the data is going to be interesting to talk about, but I still want to focus on what is happening in the UK meta, what is happening in the global meta, and touch on that a little bit, but not as much as I would do normally because of the tier list I've already done. And then for those that support the channel by subscribing, hang around at the end because there'll be a tactical tip for you with a subscriber benefit for that. And then for the patrons, I have answered yet another patron priority question. So with all that said, let's get straight into it. Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Killteam 40k YouTube channel focusing on giving you the strategies and tactics to seize initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan, and I'm here to help give you the tips and tricks that elevate every part of your Killteam experience. So no matter if you're a casual or a competitive player, there should be something here for you. If you're interested in supporting the channel, there's a few ways you can go about doing so. You can join the Patreon, where you get access to members only Discord, patron priority questions, early access to content, exclusive content, and tournament awards. Or if you find yourself buying Killteam goodies or hobby supplies, you can use one of our affiliate links in the description below, or discount codes with Crossfire Games and GG Prints. We're always keen to hear your thoughts and feedback, so don't leave that comment box empty, let us know what you think. Once again, thanks for your support, and with all that said, let's get into it. Okay, so we'll start as we always do with a UK events recap. And I'll bring up the map of where the events have been in the UK so you can see what's going on. We actually have 4 events to cover. So there's 2 events in the Sheffield area, there's 1 event up in the north of Scotland, and 1 event in London. And we'll just go chronologically through those and cover each of the events and who's doing well and why I think that they're doing well at those various events. So first up we have the Sheffield event, which is a Yorkshire Killteam doing their weekday event, which is a 2-round sort of casual evening event where essentially players can get together and just play in a bit of a formalised match play scenario, but not necessarily making it like a super competitive competition or something like this. But top 3 we'll talk through, and I'll just explain why I think these people have placed where they are, and what I think about the team. So let's start in 3rd place with Leo Wilson with Wrecka Krew getting 2 wins and really enjoying, I think, the new changes to Wrecka Krew. I believe that this was done with the new balanced data slate rules, so people can start practicing. But correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I know that the following tournament definitely was done. So Wrecka Krew, I think, are very much enjoying the new changes to them. I talk about it in the tier list that I've done, where Bart and Dan join me, and we talk about all the different changes that the teams have experienced. But Wrecka Krew, I think, are particularly enjoy the changes when it comes to map differential for them. So previously on ITD, they found it significantly harder than they would do on open board. They were already quite a predictable team. That combined with the fact that then they couldn't be able to get their APL buffs, which is a really sort of like harsh and punishing to them. I still think they do struggle on ITD. Like with a lot of these teams, they're not like a particularly explosive team in movement potential or that sort of thing. So having those doorways and hatchways be able to slow them down, not necessarily getting the efficiency they want, is still impactful. And there's definitely still ways that you can play around on ITD with the hatchways to avoid being charged, which this team particularly doesn't enjoy. But the main benefit is that when they do get the charge off, they are going to get an APL buff and not just going to be shut down by having to open a door, charge someone, and then not be able to do anything else other than those 2 things. So Leo doing great with his Wrecka Krew, and then in 2nd place is Christian with Deathwatch. I think as I highlighted in the tier list, I think Deathwatch are in a great place. A lot of their matchups received quite significant nerfs. They did receive some nerfs themselves. The Demolisher got the ability to double stack removed for their damage reduction, which I think is actually fine. It didn't come up too often. It was useful against like power swords and that sort of thing to be able to just reduce the damage that was coming in, but not ridiculously impactful to the way the team plays, except the change to smoke grenades, which I actually think is way more impactful to this team. And I'm particularly scared, like in certain matchups where there's a lot of piercing 1, I think that is going to be a way more impactful change than people are necessarily giving it credit to. So, personally, I think that was a nerf that Deathwatch got that people haven't seen yet. or that's just the world according to Ryan, is that the smoke grenades nerf is impacts Deathwatch more than it impacts most other teams. But congratulations to Christian for with getting 2 wins there. And then in first place is Tom Robinson with his veteran Guardsman. Now, what I will say about Tom is he's a very good player, and this was a casual event, so he was clearly going with the casual team in mind. I don't think he was secretly thinking that Vet Guard are the most broken faction in the game or anything like this, but demonstrating that they still have legs and they're able to get stuff done. So congratulations to Tom for getting first place with Vet Guard. Vet Guard, I mean, I still think they're going to struggle into a longer format event, because when you start playing the teams that they struggle into, such as like Felgors, such as Goremongers, I think Raveners can do quite a good job against Vet Guard as well. I think those sorts of teams it would sort of put the pressure on them that not necessarily thinking that they would do. So I think in these short format events they're great, but in longer format I'm not too convinced. But maybe Tom can drop a comment and let me know why I'm wrong about Vet Guard if he thinks I am. Next up, we're going further north. We're looking up to Scotland, which was a 3-round event with 12 players. And we'll focus again on the top 3. So Chris Carl getting 3rd place with Raveners with a loss and then 2 wins. And noting that the loss was 16 points. That is a lot to be scoring to be edged out of a victory. So well done there for sort of losing with such a high score. That must have been a pretty close game. Raveners again consistently doing well. I think the changes. And I don't know if this event was played with the changes or not. I couldn't tell you, but I do think those changes are going to be really impactful. I'm interested to see how Raveners continue to perform with such a crucial tactic of theirs removed, with the ride into sight being taken away, and now only being able to do that defensively to be able to pull their models back. So I'm really interested to see that progression of Raveners and see what happens. But potentially, are players finding a way to counter this and that sort of stuff? You know, as a Deathwatch player, it changes the matchup again, because I used to think you would take the Disruptor into Raveners specifically to shut down that play. But now I'm almost wondering if you need the Disruptor at all, or if you're better off taking just more heavy hitting operatives to be able to deal with the models on the table, which I theoretically think is worse for Raveners, and as that's such a popular team to be seen out in the wild, I can imagine that's potentially interesting. So congratulations for Chris for getting a 3rd place with Raveners. In 2nd place, Scott Catanach, I believe that's how you say it, with his Tempestus Aquilons, going 2 wins and a draw. And I can only assume, based on the scoreline, that the draw is to the winner, Stuart Smith. So a fantastic performance with the Aquilons. Now, based on this scoreline of 6-6, I'm going to guess that the game didn't finish. I might be wrong on that, but that seems like a particularly low scoring draw. Unless I'm trying to think, maybe you're playing Orb or something, and maybe it wasn't that impactful. But I'm going to guess that this was an unfinished game. So I would like to know how this would have panned out, because going into matchup data, this is a favoured matchup for Aquilons. So Aquilons usually quite like playing against Deathwatch based on these stats. If you look at the win percentage of Aquilons versus Deathwatch, I actually don't mind it as a matchup. I think you have to play it very, very differently. I talked last week about how we play against very hyper aggressive teams, and how you have to sort of completely change your mentality when it comes to staging and where you push. And how late you can wait in a turning point before you have to move up and try and engage them. But I still think Aquilons are going to be doing particularly well, because I think the fact that a lot of their more challenging matchups have received nerfs is a good thing for the Aquilons. And so, every time I see this team played, they seem to be able to very consistently score, be able to do a very good job of getting a good scoreline, and as you can see, Scott's getting 20 points and 19 points, very close to maxing in both his first games, and then into this final with only 6. So I think in a teams format, I'm interested to see how Aquilons play, because often I think even if they lose, they're probably not going to lose by much. With that really oppressive turning point 2 pressure they can put on your opponent, you do have to be careful not to be caught out by it. because even being like 2 inches out of a drop zone too far, you're probably going to get hit by a melter bomb or a melter gun or whatever it is, and it's going to hurt. And I think there is an interesting like development of tactics here, where I think when Aquilons first play people, they can hit them with the surprise drops that they're not necessarily expecting, and that's how the game kind of plays out, and they get wins there. But as you get into the more advanced play with Aquilons, and you're against players that know exactly how far you can drop out of your drop zone, whatever, and they're measuring really effectively around the threat ranges posed by those bubbles. I wonder if having a few more threats on the board with APL buffs, with a leader and that sort of thing, is actually going to be more impactful. But that's an observer's view of Aquilons. I haven't been playing them myself, but when I view them, I'm often like, if you leave too many threats in the air, then it becomes too concentrated, and as a result, like, I don't have to worry too much on the board, particularly when you see that the markers start being removed, and depending upon how they've positioned their markers, it might be that you go, well, I now know that I can move up on the board in a safe way on a different side because you haven't got any threats there. So I think maybe there's something to be said about pacing out your threats as Aquilons. But if you're an Aquilon player, what's your thoughts? Is that true to what your experience is, or am I off the mark? Enlighten me in the comment section below. And then congratulations to Stuart Smith with his Deathwatch, with an incredible performance of 21 and 21 again, and then the final draw on 6 points. Maxing 2 games in a row is impressive. Like, in this new edition, the way the tac ops work and that sort of stuff, we've said it quite a few times. It's a lower scoring edition, or it feels like it's a lower scoring edition. So the fact that Stuart Smith has managed to come out the box like swinging with double 21 max scores is really impressive. So maybe the team name of Sweat Lords is aptly placed for Stuart Smith. I don't know, but congratulations for your win and getting first place at the Shadow of the Kelpie 2. We'll roll into the next event, which was down in London, which is the Rolling Zeros Invitational. So this was a 3-round event with 20 players. And again, we'll just focus on the top 3 because those are the ones that I think's worthy. And to note that all of these players were undefeated. So if the event continued into a 4th round or 5th round, any one of these guys could have potentially taken first spot. But it came down to tiebreakers, which I believe for this one was victory points as the primary tiebreaker after their tournament placing. So in 3rd place, it's Morgan Redshaw from the Rolling Zeros themselves, so from the actual organiser of the event, with Mandrakes going 12, 13 and 12. So quite a low scoring sort of score in comparison to the Deathwatch stomping that we saw up in the Scottish meta, but a really, really good performance. And I'm interested to see how Mandrakes continues to perform. So when we looked at Void Dancers and Blazercane, like, they're the elf teams that are getting the attention at the moment. But as you probably heard in the tier list, I think there's something to be said about Mandrakes, where maybe in some of their matchups that they're still struggling. They're still a 2 APL team that in certain matchups just I think struggle to play the crit op in an effective way. But they do have something like incredible tricks, and I think maybe it's because they're not played enough at the moment. I'm not really too sure how to counter them. I think the ability to move a blast threat into your back line, if you don't screen it out properly, it catches people off guard, right? So your last activation could potentially be a really effective shooter disappearing in a teleport into a position where you can't necessarily interact with them. And if they win initiative next turn, they're then going to fire a blast where they want to, and you might not be able to move your models and spread them out the way you want to. So you really have to be considering, where can these guys teleport in? How do I stop that? And for some teams, you just don't have the bodies to be able to achieve it. Like there's too many angles, there's too many hidden areas where you just can't stop that from happening. And weirdly, it feels like it's easier to stop on ITD or Tomb World than it is on the open boards, because open boards there's more nooks, there's more little areas where you can just get that cover line, which means your opponent is unable to get there. So I think Mandrakes might be one of those teams where map knowledge is like crucial, and the more that you know of areas where you think you can hide your models, is going to be better. And noting as well, the insane threat ranges that they can potentially do, with the ability to ignore terrain on a charge or in general, and then equally be able to do a dash and then charge with an out of sequence dash. So Morgan Redshaw obviously doing really well with Mandrakes. Congratulations on your third place. The next two are not surprising players because they are like some of the top players in the UK meta. So I'm not shocked to see them on podium spots at all. So firstly, we'll talk about Serkan. So for those who don't know, Serkan was part of the UK WTC team Squad 1 and was running Sanctifiers, but now has switched over to Canoptek Circle for the new meta, and has immediately done quite well here with an undefeated streak and 3 wins with the new Canoptek Circle. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this event was post-balanced data slate or not, so I can't say for definite if it was, but I believe it was because it's for WCW practice, and I believe both Nick and Serkan were going out. So I think they've done it to help, and there's actually some other players in the roster that you can probably see that are going to the World Championships. But I believe they've done it for that practice purpose. But potentially, if you were a player at Rolling Zeros, drop a comment below. Were you using the new balanced data slate? How impactful did you find it? Because I think that'd be interesting for people to know. But Canoptek Circle. So I played against them quite a bit this weekend. I do feel like the nerfs are very impactful. But I still think they're strong. I still think they have potential. But they are just harder to play in a way. And I think that there is more counterplay when you're playing against them, particularly. So, for instance, if you're a horde team and before you really struggle with the sequencing of being able to deal with their healing, or potentially you just couldn't deal with that because they could just through counteracts and commands and healing potential just negate your damage. The way that nerf impacts now is really significant. And I think the 4 APL change to Geomancer is really significant because before, they had so much APL, they were able to basically do everything that they wanted to do. They could move into a position to be able to shoot you, they'd be able to hand out one of their buffs, and they'd be able to do their geomatic disturbance, some of this, or they could play the mission and be doing their mission actions at the same time as buffing their own team and dealing damage. Now, they're having to make more choices, which I know Serkan's really good at because he was used to the as I said, Sanctifier game plan of there's so many choices you have to make, and you have to manage all these resources and these auras and these bubbles, which I assume is similar to the Matrix play. So he's sort of I think good at cracking that code. But yeah, I can definitely see how he could continue to do well with Canoptek Circle. But I personally feel that the nerfs are impactful. But I still think they're going to be one of the stronger teams in the meta. But congratulations to Serkan for going undefeated with 3 wins at the Rolling Zeros Invitational. And then in first place is Nick Collins with his Chaos Cult. So again, Nick was another WTC player in the Squad 2 and was running Chaos Cult for that, and is going to WCW, I believe, with the Chaos Cult as well. So I assume that these guys are locked in with these faction selections, but I might be wrong. Maybe they change it. I'm not too sure when the cutoff is, as I'm not going this year. So, but Chaos Cults. I think this team is really strong. We've been saying that we think it's strong for a while. I think internationally, a lot of people don't think it's that strong, and maybe that's just credit to Nick in the UK meta, because Nick's been running this team pretty much all edition. He's done some deviations for Commandos and Wreckers and stuff, I think, but pretty much has been on the Chaos Cult grind. And I think that's probably why the UK meta has such a respect for Chaos Cult, because we see it played pretty effectively. And I know that there's some incredible Spanish players and Australian players that we've seen rock Chaos Cult previously. But focusing on the UK meta, I think Nick has been the one that's kind of made that team shine. And I think with the new approved ops, there's 2 sort of key changes that I think is good for them. So firstly, the change to TAC ops obviously is massively impactful. As a seek and destroy and an infiltration team, I think it feels like buffs to their 2 archetypes and nerfs to the other archetypes is really good for them. So they're able to score better, and people are scoring worse against them generically. There are some exceptions with elites and seek and destroy, but that's an aside. But it feels like they're able to then therefore get better scores on the table, which is usually better for tiebreakers and that sort of thing. And a second thing that I think is impactful for Chaos Cult is the changes to crit ops. A lot of the crit ops now don't actually require mission actions. They just require you to control objective markers and control more objective markers than your opponent, say, as the key scoring mechanic. Now, Chaos Cults have ways to essentially control markers better or reduce your control of markers. They have a lot of bodies and they don't want to spend their APL necessarily just beeping points. They want to be able to do it into charging you, clogging you up, fighting you where they want to, mutating their guys and that sort of thing. So I think those two changes are why Chaos Cult are in a great place. I'm interested to see how well Nick does when he goes out into the World Championships. So if he is taking Chaos Cult, I hopefully he can replicate the success he's had in the UK with them, and we'll see a new appreciation potentially. Although maybe it's the same appreciation that we've had in the past, because as we know, Chaos Cults have done well historically at Warhammer World Championships of Warhammer. Okay, finally, we'll do the last event for the UK, which is the Yorkshire Killteam's Fright Night Firefight. This was a 4-round event with 20 players, and I'll focus on the top 3 as usual. So in third place is Elliot Rushton from Killteam Lancashire, running Goremongers, and he had a fantastic performance, going 3 wins and a single loss, and again scoring 15 points for his loss. So a pretty respectable score in my opinion on a loss. Now, I actually did play Elliot in this last game, so I can talk a little bit about it. And I was also running Deathwatch. I think Elliot has absolutely nailed that play style down as to what he needed to do versus Deathwatch. It was very much like if there was a few dice rolls here or there that swing it a different way, then I think he gets the win. And I think he played that exactly the way that I think, that I was worried someone would play it, if that makes sense. So playing retrieval, playing the objectives, being able to hold off, not necessarily being rushed into an early engagement because you didn't necessarily need to, and then just sequencing your models so that you use your activation advantage to play the crit up well, and then using that to basically get retrieval as well. And if you can go up on crit up just a little bit, and you're guaranteed to be maxing your tac op or doing very well on tac op, then that's a great way of playing it, right? So sort of slowing down the pace of the game was really good. Where I think the game went in my favour was I was just able in Turning Point 2 to get the sequencing correct for a charge, and I sort of chilled out and then got the kill on a counteract to then be able to plant a banner and control an objective, which was key. Actually, sorry, that was a different game. That was a different game. That was against Canoptek. My bad. It was the same map, which is why it's confusing me. It was actually the playing that, getting the secure on Turning Point 2, sorry, ahead of him being able to jump on there first and secure it. So therefore, I was able to sustain it unless he threw multiple models on, which he then necessarily didn't want to do. That was a difference. I'll talk about that game later. But yeah, so I think showing that Goremongers still have it, and this was with the nerfs as well, so they're still a very potent team, doing really well, using the asymmetric advantage that you should be using, and not just throwing models into melee to die. Instead thinking, okay, actually I'm probably not going to be able to win that fight, so instead I'm going to try and use a combination of shooting and chip damage to weaken that model to a point where then I can win the fight, right? And again, the operative selection was spot on. He was able to get the brutal guy into combat with the Aegis, so if I didn't roll a crit, I was going to die, and that kind of mentality of I'm going to make sure I'm using the right models to combat the right models. So congratulations to Elliot for his third place finish. And then in second place, Tom Shaw. So again, not a surprise. We see Tom doing pretty well. Both these guys doing pretty well at tournaments. Repping obviously the local crowd in Yorkshire Killteam and running Ratlings. So again, single defeat and 3 losses. So I actually did play Tom on round 1. So that was our game, and it was an awesome game. Getting to see the new changes for Ratlings was epic, because they have now so much more movement than they did before, and that constant being able to Scarper is really good. I also really like the fact that you can, because of the way that the sneak Scarper works now, you can do that, but then also do another one. So you're able to have this sort of like double dash, as in not the sneak himself, but two models that are moving, which can be really difficult to play around with the access to Seek Light and the access to like the tank stopper, big shot, and that sort of stuff, being able to take out key models. I was very much aware of the damage potential of the team with crit hits and that sort of stuff, and they just felt way better to play against than what it felt previously. Now, also, bit of personal bias here. I always end up playing Ratlings on base Decima, which is disgusting, and I think that is like such a good such a good kill zone for them. If they could just play beta Decima, I think they might potentially be like S tier, because they all can have access to Super Conceal. They have access to Seek Light. Like they're able to move like pretty freely to be able to get to climb positions when they want to. They're crazy. Anyway, but Tom doing really well with them. With as I said, 3 wins and a single loss. So I think he's enjoying that team. I think they're actually quite a deep team to learn, because how many Ogryns you bring, how many Borgryns you bring, like all that sort of stuff. Like, do you just take the free ploys? Do you just take Ratlings? What equipment do you take? Because you can take more equipment, and actually they have like loads of flexibility on their equipment. I think it's like really good, like an interesting mechanics to play around with. So I think Ratlings are in a cool place. I like them. I think the changes are impactful. I think people are potentially like not like, I don't know. Well, like Larcenous, I think is such a strong ability, and it forces like weird scenarios. So Turning Point 2. I don't necessarily know what tackle he's going to take, right? So, or during Turning Point 1, I don't know what tackle he's going to take. But in my mind, so we're playing energy cells. In my mind, I'm thinking he could be taking plant devices, right? So my counter was, okay, well, if I can get onto the energy cell in Turning Point 1, I can then pick it up in Turning Point 2 for all of my APL, and I'm essentially going to burn a model to do that. He's going to take it, but it then means that he can't plant device on my home objective, right? So it's going to deny him that VP, but I have to stage in a way to be able to achieve that, because if I don't, then I know that he's going to be able to like essentially throw a raider away, but do that for free, irrespective of what I can test. So not just am I putting a model on there, but when I won the initiative role, I'm selecting to go first, which I didn't want necessarily to do, so that I could then do this play, which as it turns out I was playing Envoy and I didn't need to do. But like, because that threat was there, I had to position a model where I didn't want it to be positioned, and I had to take initiative where I didn't want to take initiative. And that was like really impactful. So that cost me CP, it cost me all sorts. And obviously he's like, well, I'm playing Envoy, but you didn't know that. And that forced an entirely different dynamic to the game. We're having great fun just chatting through and talking about the team and double checking rules, because it was his first time playing Ratlings, and obviously it's like my memory of Ratlings is all with a whole bunch of changes. So we were like, oh, does this work? Does this work? And I think we got to like midway through Turning Point 2, and then or maybe it was like the start of Turning Point 3, and the TO deck was like, oh, you guys got 15 minutes left, and we were like, oh my god, and then we just powered through the rest of the game. So thanks Tom for doing that, because I was playing Dominate, I was playing all late game scoring, and he easily could have just slow played me, right, and just been like, oh whatever, like you messed up timings, but he didn't do that. He was really good opponent. He was awesome to play against. We got the game finished, and in record time we rattled through the last 2 turning points, and I managed to just sneak a win, 16-12 against him, which was his only loss of the day. So a very deserved second place for Tom Shaw with Ratlings. And then I managed to get lucky and get my Deathwatch another win, which is awesome, because I'd actually never won an event at the Yorkshire Killteam like venues or events. I've come close a few times, but I've lost out based on tiebreakers or whatever, like for various reasons. I've never actually won an event there, so I was pretty happy to be able to turn up and win an event. As I said, my first game was against Ratlings. My second game was against Canoptek Circle. My third game was against Canoptek Circle, and my fourth game was against Goremongers. So I had like a really good tournament experience. Of like, one of the things that I went there for was I just want to see what the balance changes are like, so I can talk about it and comment on them, right? And the the tournament was perfect for that, because when I saw that Tom was playing Ratlings, I was like, I really hope he gets to play Ratlings. I really want to play Ratlings, even if I have like bomber PTSD from so the horrible things he's done. It's a separate story for another time. Maybe we'll do a Patreon about it. But yeah, even with my Ratling bomber PTSD, I was like, I really want to play against Ratlings. I really want to play against Goremongers, and I really want to play against Canoptek Circle just to see how they perform. I actually also wanted to play against Blades of Cain, but alas, I got Canoptek Circle twice, but that was good. So yeah, Deathwatch I think are in a great place. As I said, the first game against Ratlings, I really enjoyed it. It was to my favour because it was an ITD. I think had it been on Beta Decima, I think Tom would have absolutely trounced me. I'm not even sure what he would have done in that scenario. So I was happy to see that it was on a more favourable board. I think potentially it was actually 2 mods. So I think 2 mod is maybe the most balanced that matchup can be, because I think on like Volcus, there's more places that the Marines can hide in heavy terrain just to avoid being shot, and then they can get to the Ratlings easier. Whereas the way the light terrain is in the mid board makes it a little bit harder to be able to actually stage up and threaten people effectively. But Deathwatch, I think, are in a great spot. The interesting game for me was against Canoptek, and I'm going to talk about this in the Patreon priority question a little bit more as well. But I think that matchup is very, like, it feels very winnable now, because the damage, like healing and that sort of stuff, is more manageable as Deathwatch. It's still something you have to be aware of, and you still have to take it into account. But you also have, I think, all the tools to be able to kill the Canoptek Circle. So you have the right counters, but you just have to get the correct matchups. So it's like you need to get the double parry Aegis into combat with the crawlers to be able to parry them out and then do damage, and it's always going to take you 2 fights. You want to get the blast, like threatening big guns into the Geomancer so that they can't shift it off with their get down Mr. President, but you also want them to be chipped enough so that you can get them in a single kill. I got really lucky in my game 2 against Nyx, who, like, I mean, I don't think it was like it was a bit. I mean, I got lucky basically, but essentially he forgot that I had the service goal for a free mission action, so he had positioned a roadblock warrior, but I killed the roadblock warrior, opened the hatch, killed the warrior, moved, and then was able to get a shot on his leader, which was in blast range of his reanimator, which is fine. In my mind, I was like, this is a pretty good trade for me, because I'm going to kill the reanimator and I'm happy with that, and I'm going to do some damage to the leader, right? Like, it's a plasma pistol blast, like it's not going to kill his leader, but it'll do some damage, and that's fine. But he just could not roll a save, and because he wasn't on his matrix or anything like this, his leader died. And then also the reanimator died, so he couldn't be reanimated, and at that point, like, the game was I think done. So a lucky result for me is why I managed to get a max score of 21, because it was one of those things where I was like, oh, okay, this game has just gone nuts. And then obviously, because why wouldn't it, that when he goes for his reattacks, a whole bunch of whiffed rolls and that sort of stuff that just mean that I managed to eke it away. The next game against Canoptek was on open board, and it was on a really tough Volcus map. And it was a really interesting game of, as I said, I gave it away. I managed to get the charge in to be able to do the counteract, fight, and then plant a banner later on. So again, that was like my last counteract. So I was trying to see where, like, the Canoptek were moving. And initially during deployment, I thought I was going to have to go to the right-hand side of the board for the banner. But as the turning point played out, I realised that actually I was going to have to plant it on the left-hand side, and that was the best way for me to be able to do it. So my takeaway from that game is like, if you're playing like security and plant banner, don't just throw it down straight away, because you need to see where models are moving, how that turning point is going, and then you can react with that counteract. Now, obviously, I'm in a very fortunate position as Deathwatch because I can double counteract, and therefore I could kill a model and plant a banner. But hypothetically, if you're a horde team, you can do the same thing. You can wait out. You don't have to make it your first activation. You can make it one of your later ones. And that's the key lessons. I've already talked about the other games. So, so congratulations to Elliot. Congratulations to Tom. for your amazing performances, and thank you very much for the really fun games. To all 4 of my opponents, it was massively enjoyable. And I had a great day. It was well hosted by Yorkshire Killteam as always, and it was a blast. So the venue there, by the way, is actually really good. It's air conditioned, which is nice for the summer. It's warm in the winter, which is nice. They're constantly upgrading it as well, which is quite good. So I've noticed that there's like little bits sort of improving each time, and now they do food and all sorts, which they didn't do previously. So if you're interested and you want to check out one of those events at the Outpost in Sheffield, I highly recommend it. Go check it out. And the TO team there will look after you. It's a great event. And if you're wondering where you can find out about more events, well, luckily, some people in the community have done some amazing work to be able to list all of the various events that exist in the UK. And if you're a TO, you can add your events to this list just by hitting the submit event button at the top of the screen. But essentially, this is the talkify.com/KT events/pinboard. And it's just a list of all of the events that are happening in the UK that have been advertised on this. There might be more that aren't advertised. But if you're a TO, as I said, please do submit your events to get them up and advertised. So you'll also see that some of the events are selling out. So don't miss out on events. Like, make sure if you're tempted to go, buy your tickets. This massively helps the TO because, like, right now, let's say the Killteam has 2 tickets left, right? If people buy them now, they might be able to release more tickets and get more sales. I'm not saying they can, by the way. I'm just saying hypothetically, if they know ahead of time. Whereas if you book it like the day before, then the TO doesn't have enough time to get more tables, get more space, get more terrain, and that sort of stuff. So if you are interested in these Killteam events, they're not normally massively expensive, but just sign up early, let the TO know that you're interested in attending. As I said, if you can do that, you might be able to message them and say, hey, can I sign up now but pay you later, and that sort of stuff. Loads of TOs are really good at dealing with that sort of stuff, and it might mean that they can expand the event, get more tables, more players, and more people playing more Killteam, which is what it's all about. A quick run through, obviously with the Norwich event coming up next, then the International Team Tournament in Welwyn Garden City, Killteam, I just talked about up in Edinburgh. We have the Curtain, Killzone Curtain 6, can't even count in Roman numerals, on the 22nd November. Rolling Zeros, the London-based organiser I talked about previously, doing a Tomb World event on the 22nd November. KTS Operation Oatcake is already sold out on the 23rd November, which is a bit of a shame because I was potentially trying to get a ticket to this. I've missed out because I've waited too long. But yeah, so great to see that they've sold out, which is awesome. Then in the 29th of November is Wake the Titans, which is Once Upon a Killteam narrative event combined with Norwich Killteam, which is epic to see, by the way, because these two are like really cool parts of the Killteam community. One doing like narrative side, and Norwich Killteam being, I think, one of the best like media like Killteam groups, I think, personally. So that is going to be epic for what comes out of it. I'm sure there's going to be some awesome photos, teams, and like I'm sure it's going to be a blast. Then Yorkshire Killteam, as I said, if you wanted to go to the Outpost and you're interested in getting involved with those events, well, you can on the 29th of November for their Sparks and Skirmishes event. You can buy tickets to do that. Lincoln Killteam is doing an invitational, so a invitational, but with the Lincoln Imps. That's in Lincoln. Then you have the Leicester GT, which is start the very beginning of the UKTC season on the 6th of December. And I'll end it there, but you can see there is a whole load more that are coming out, and they are going to be continually filling up. So, as I said, get your tickets. If you're a TO and you see your event isn't listed, just go on there, hit submit event, and I'll try and, as much as I can, publicise it to hopefully get more people getting more Killteam in, which is what it's all about. Okay, so that is a recap of UK events and a discussion of the upcoming UK events. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about wider meta win rates. I'm not going to go massively in detail, and the reason I'm not going to go massively in detail is because I've just done a tier list, right? And I've done 2.5 hours talking about all the individual teams and where I think they place, all that sort of stuff. So this is just going to be a very, very brief overview. But if you want more detail, go check out that tier list. I've actually found the timestamps for it. Sorry, I know it took me a while, but you guys can go in there, look through it, and add your comments and see where I think your team ranks. And it's not just me as well, so I should say I'm joined by Bart and Dan in doing that. So you get a few different opinions on those teams. So rankings. So for those who don't know, this is the Pretentious Plastic Ops website. It's it's an incredible resource, in my opinion, and it's run by Smiles, Lies and Gunfire. He does all the work behind the scenes. I do none of this, by the way, right? I'm literally just a face that shows off the work that this guy has done, and I'm very happy that he has done it. So, interestingly, if you look at the combination of win rates and placing rates, so placing rates is based on how broad your meta is, or how many people are playing your team, how many of those players are getting undefeated, or 3-1s, or first places, or whatever. And the way in which like it's calculated is like an average amount is around 12.5% of the meta based on the amount of teams, and that varies based on what's going on. But essentially, they're expecting that 12.5% of the players will place essentially for an average team. So the higher above that threshold you are, that means that your team is averagely placing better at events. So there's like in my opinion, the sort of three main metrics that you want to look at is how often does a team win a game, which is like the win rate. Then it's how often are they placing, and then how many people are playing those teams. So Canoptek are coming out way out ahead, and it'll be interesting to see how this adjusts. But they've been doing pretty well. So 63.6%, an excessive win rate of 26.7%, and a huge meta representation. So this team is really popular. It's placing really well, and it's winning most of its games. So Canoptek are doing exceptional. Clearly, this is pre-data slate, so we'll see what happens when the data slate comes out and just how much that this gets changed. In second place is Chaos Cult. In third place is Deathwatch, and in fourth place is Void Dancers. Fifth place is Blades of Cain. So interestingly, this is the current top 5, and it's probably worth you having a look at that tier list to see how our perceptions in the UK change that top 5. And additionally, same for the bottom, right? So the bottom 5 is Pathfinders, Kazakin, Scouts, Deathcore, and Exaction. And then, do we still think that these are the bottom 5, or do we think that maybe these teams are just underpicked and maybe not being played to their full potential all the time? So that's all I'm going to say on this one. So as I said, check out that tier list because I've gone into it in way more detail. And the tactical tip is going to use some of the stuff that's on here anyway. So that's it for the wider meta win rates. As I said, I use it to inform the tier list, so I don't want to go too much in depth. But I am going to give you a tactical tip, which is directly related to this website. So this is a subscriber benefit. So if you're not a subscriber, this is an opportunity for you to depart and say thank you very much. I don't want to subscribe, and I don't want to support Ryan because I'm a meanie. And all it takes is you just move your mouse and just click subscribe, and it really helps me out. So if you have done that, thank you very much, and I'll give you a tactical tip. I'd say it's all in jest, but it does really help the channel grow if you guys can just hit that subscribe button. So the tactical tip for today is use data to inform your practice, right? So I am a big advocate of this edition, trying to track all the stuff that all my games and all the various matchups and all that sort of stuff that you can do. Now, there's a few ways of doing this. People have sent me links to their own individual data tracking sites where you can upload your games and it shows you all their own stuff. I said I've got the Excel spreadsheet that I use that essentially shows me how my individual games are going, and I track all of the various stuff, and I chuck it all in here so that I know what teams I've played, what maps I've played on, what crit ops I've played, what attack ops I've played, and all that sort of stuff. And so that's what I'm using. And the reason why I find it to be useful is I think that if you collect that data and you use that data effectively, you can inform yourself on your primary op selection. You can inform yourself on what is a good matchup and a bad matchup, and you can inform yourself on like how likely you are to score your attack ops in that matchup. Now, the bit where I think is worthy to discuss when it comes to the data that you see to my left. That's weird. I point to my right, but it's the left. Anyway, the data that you see here, right? So for those who don't know, the other cool feature of this website is this matchups tab. So if you go on this matchups tab, and I've pre-selected one earlier, you can type in and choose a faction that you want to use. Now, obviously, I'm somewhat biased, so I'm using Deathwatch. And if you go on here and do matchups, and you say Deathwatch, you can, if you want to, select all of these, and you'll do the analyze matchups, and it will just give you top to bottom, like all of the various percentage win percentage they have in those games. So I know that by looking at this, apparently I've got an 80% win rate in, not me personally, but Deathwatch have an 80% win rate into Deathcore, 78% into Breaches, Farstalkers, Felgor, Battleclade. So these are all like your favoured matchups, right? So these are matchups that you should be doing pretty well at, and you can sort of see it goes down. Cool. And then the bit that I think is interesting personally is when you get to this like this bit where it's now the even matchups, and you can probably say a little bit above, like below 55% is where I would personally start focusing my practice, right? And particularly, I think you want to do the below 50%. So what I've done here is I've taken a selection of those. This then shows you the 50% and below, I believe. I might have missed out some, but this is how it's going to inform my practice, right? So if I'm getting ready for like World Championships, if I'm getting ready for WTC or whatever, or I'm getting ready for a big tournament or whatever you want to do, and you're like, I want to focus on this particular team, I want to get good with this particular team at the moment, then this is how you can do it. You can go on here, you can figure out what teams your team struggles with, right? Because if your team's like getting a 75% win rate into a certain team, well then you probably don't need to stress about it, right? Like you're probably going to win that game anyway. I'm not saying you shouldn't practice that matchup, but generically you should be thinking, okay, well actually that matchup I've probably got in the bag. That these matchups, like against Chaos Cult, where it's only 27.5%, this is definitely where I need to start understanding why. I need to read what the Chaos Cult can do. I need to understand their rules. I need to understand what their gotchas are. I need to start thinking about them as a problem, because if the first time I'm thinking about a team is when I arrive opposite the table against them, and I'm like, oh, okay, hey, you turned up with Chaos Cult, and it turns out that I'm on like a odds are I'm going to lose that matchup. Well, if I haven't prepared for it at all, then it's even more likely I'm going to lose that matchup. So this is what I mean by using the data. So someone has done this for you, by the way, and it's for all the teams. So as I said, you can go on here, and let's say you want to be a breaches player, right? And you really want to play breaches, and you can then select all of these things. You can analyze the matchups, and it will tell you where breaches do well against. So apparently they're really good against Exaction Squad. And it'll also tell you where they don't do so well against. They're not very good as novitiates or whatever. But maybe you want to do Raveners, whatever it is, right? My point is that you can do this for your team. You can click in here, you can analyze the matchups, and you can figure out like what your team is good against and what your team is bad against. And then when you do your practice games, you can now start thinking, okay, actually, I'm going to take this and inform against these teams as to how I'm going to practice. And at your local club games or whatever, if you're like TTS warrior or you go to your local club and you're trying to figure out who you want to play against, you can just say, oh, hey, has anyone this week got any Canoptek? Because I really want to run my Raveners against Canoptek. I want to see what you do. I want to understand your rules and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that your local club player doesn't need to become a super sweaty game. I'm not saying that you need to be like, right, hit me with everything you can possibly get as hard as you can. Like, I'm not saying that at all, right? But what it will do is mean that you understand their rules, you understand what their operatives do, and you can then start planning what your game plan might be. And you might realise that during the game that when you took Dominate against Canoptek, actually maybe you're not getting the kills, and it therefore was a really bad tack-up choice. Or maybe there was a particular mission that you played where you thought, oh, this strategy I've done doesn't work. Whatever it is, right? It just starts giving you a feel for the team. And as I said, this data exists. Someone's done the hard work for you, and you can use it to start informing your practice. And even if you don't have time to play games, right? So let's say you don't have the ability to go and grind out the reps and get these ahead of your tournament. Well, at least you can start doing the theoretical, right? So I know that I need to start reading about what these teams do and understanding their rules, so that I can then start theory crafting in my head. How would I win that match? Because what I don't want to do is, as I did last week, think that Corsairs are a Seek and Destroy team, right? And say, oh yeah, they play Seek and Destroy, and then turn out, like when I first played them on the table, and at the start of Turning Point 2, they reveal that they're actually an infiltration team, or maybe not start of Turning Point 2, but you know what I mean. And then suddenly I'm on on my back foot because I've not protected my home objective from a plant devices, and now my whole game plan is falling apart because I didn't actually think about it. So my point being is, use the data to inform your practice, inform your research, and inform your your sort of pre-game, so that you don't get surprised when you're on the tabletop. So that's the tactical tip: is using data to inform your practice. As I said, the data already exists. All you have to do is just input your own faction, and the hard work's been done. So thank you very much to Smiles, Lies and Gunfire. As I said, that is a phenomenal resource. He's doing an incredible job for the community, and it's all there available at your fingertips. Just go to pretentiousplasticOps.com/stats/matchups, and you can do it yourself. Cool. That is the end of the tactical tip. And now I'm going to do a Patreon priority question. So those who don't know, I have a Patreon. I use the I put a question up whenever the on monthly or whatever, and a post up, and people can ask questions. And I just work my way through that post, answering the questions. There is a new one that's going up right now to basically just pay back a little bit towards the Patreon community that is supporting me, because without it, like, none of this is really possible. It helps do a whole bunch of stuff. So it's my way of paying back. If you want to get involved in that, all you have to do is join the Patreon. You get access to the Discord, you get access to all that sort of stuff, and you can ask Patreon priority questions. Lots of people are like asking me questions on there as a hey, quick question, blah blah blah. And they send me a message directly, and if I've got time, I'll answer it. Right. So that's my way of trying to help people out, and just as I said, reward those that are supporting me by supporting them. Right. It's a two-way street. Try to support each other. Cool. So there's one last thing just to say on that. I am likely going to be away for 2 weeks. I'm not 100% sure if the Metawatch is going to be able to be run or not. So it might be that I just run the Metawatch on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon, I'm going to try my hardest to just probably in post format, in written format, just update the Metawatch. But if not, I'm going to try and see if I can get one of the other TPT guys to cover it off. We'll see what happens. But clearly, it may be that it's Patreon only for the next couple of weeks whilst I'm on holiday. That is all subject and dependent to internet connection, all that sort of stuff, because I can't guarantee. The Patreon priority question this week, though, which we're all interested in, I'll cut to the chase, is Canoptek Circle seem to be the new meta menace. Tips and tricks for defeating them with other popular teams. So this is like a great question, right? Because this is clearly someone that's going into Canoptek Circle. They want to know, how can I think that's going to be a problematic matchup for me. I want to try and think about how I can beat it. And I have recently now had some experience in Canoptek Circle where I think I can talk about some of the generic principles, but you will need to apply it to your individual teams, right? So I can't guarantee what your team's going to do specifically, but I'm going to try. So, firstly, this team, Canoptek Circle, is exceptionally durable. So there is another stats website that I use called Killteam Calculator, where essentially you can input your. I'll just show you on here. You can input the damage and stats of your weapons and what the defensive profile is of stuff, and it will tell you your average damage and your kill chance, right, based on what you've done. And you can even have a combined situation where you've done one after the other. So I use this quite a lot as a reference guide. So it's just available at this link here. Hopefully you guys can see. I'll put it in the episode description as well, so you guys got it. But the first sort of bit that I'm going to say is understanding what realistic damage you can do against this team, right? So in there they have the ability in the advance for you to be able to put in just a scratch and that sort of stuff, which is all really relevant. So you do need to think about, is this going to kill the model I think it's going to kill? Because the answer for most of the time for the tomb crawlers is no, and therefore are you just throwing away a really valuable optive to do damage that's about to be immediately healed? Noting that if you do it, for instance, as your last activation and you do that damage against that optive and it's a tough optive to kill, well, you then know that, okay, well, I'm now going to be able to shoot them again potentially at the start of the next turning point, and I'm therefore going to be able to finish that kill. That's really impactful. If you shoot them as your first activation of the turning point, and then they immediately activate the healing bug and heal it, and now you're no better off, or they've got the reanimator in such a place where they can just reanimate it straight away, then you're going to be a really difficult situation. So you need to understand what your realistic damage is. I use a calculator to be able to understand my percentage chance to kills and that sort of stuff. So that's what I would do, and then use that data to inform your decisions. And depending on how much time you've got, you can potentially do that at tabletop, or you can do that in advance, right? So you can look at some of your weapon profiles and think, what is the chance of me killing the Geomancer with this weapon profile? And then think about it, right? But that's the first thing, is understanding, like, is it a double shoot that you're using? Is it a fight in combat? That calculator does melee as well. You can look through and think, right, what is the actual chance of me being able to get this kill? Because I think a lot of the time people are throwing models into these the walkers and that sort of stuff without any chance of killing them. So understand that and make sure you're committing the correct level of resource to be able to achieve it, and make sure you're committing that resource at the right time. So ideally, if you can, you know, commit it towards the end of a turning point and then activate the following turning point and maybe finish that model off in melee, it can't then be reanimated, and you did the chip damage needed to be able to put it in a position where you can then kill it realistically with your melee. So that's the first thing. Like, make sure you understand what your realistic damage is, and actually sequence it in the correct way. The next bit is, as I said, it's tied to that. It's understanding their rules and how it works. So the reanimator cannot reanimate models that are in melee, right? So if you kill one of their guys in melee, you can kill it for good. If you kill it with shooting, it's going to get reanimated, and that's potentially going to be problematic for you. So this is like how you can sequence your APL for maximum effect. So let's say you're a 3 APL team, and maybe your last activation is doing a bunch of damage to this walker in shooting, whatever, and then you win initiative the next turn. Well, you have two options. Like, if that walker is like at the point where, in this hypothetical scenario, you're in a scenario where you have the reanimator you can charge and kill, you have the walker you can charge and kill, and you can shoot other people as well. Like, understand what your guys armed with. Like, how much damage did you achieve during that first shot? Like, are you able to charge and kill that guy in melee and then shoot and kill the reanimator? Or are you in a position where you know that you're not going to kill that guy, therefore you're better off to go and engage the reanimator and kill that reanimator first, and then shoot the tomb crawler just for more damage, but you know they're not going to heal up as much. So you have to really prioritize those targets, and you have to sequence them properly to be able to get around their sort of reanimation abilities, their medic ability. And it is going to be difficult because their medic is probably hidden like really far back. But their team's not particularly fast with their big guys, so you can try and play around it a little bit, but it's just like I don't know how to describe it, but you're going to have to like take some risks in being able to get to those more vulnerable models. If you out-activate them, you can make sure that that's your last activation. So your melter gunner maybe does a move dash and shoots the walker that's in front of them as your last activation of turning point 2, say, and does a bunch of damage. And then you know that if you just shoot that walker again, it gets reanimated, and that's not helping anyone. So instead, your first activation is then a subsequent move to get within 2 inches of the reanimator, and you kill the reanimator. Generically, the accelerator doesn't really offer much. The reanimator offers a huge amount to the team. So, like, if you can get rid of the reanimator first, you're in a good position, because it takes away a defensive layer of that team, which is like critical to the way they operate. The Geomancer is like your next, I think, priority target. The Geomancer is going to be able to get double kills, and not many other people can. And by double kills, I mean they're going to shoot someone with their own weapon and then command someone else to shoot, and that massively increases the efficiency of the big guys. And the big guys can get stuck not being able to move around where they need to be able to get to if they can't be able to just do the teleport ability, right? So, like, if you can kill the Geomancer and you have a way around the get down Mr. President and the reanimate, go for it. If you can kill the reanimator first, and if you kill the Geomancer, sure. So like those are like your priority targets, and it's worth exposing like risk to be able to get them potentially, right? How much risk you expose is dependent upon your team, dependent upon the map state, dependent upon the tempo of the game and that sort of stuff. But my point being is you want to prioritize those targets where you can. You want to have, if you have access to blast, you want to like be threatening blast on the Geomancer. The Geomancer cannot shrug off the attack on someone else if it's blast, right? So Deathwatch is a great example of a team that have access to blast. You have that in your special ammunition, and you want to be able to be using it effectively for it. Now, it might be that you really want to use the rending on your plasma gun to be able to get more damage through. But if you select rending, it's going to go like that really good plasma shot is just going to go onto a warrior that you don't care about. So like track like what abilities they have, how much CP they have, and if they have the ability to shrug these things, then you need to try and use your torrents or your blast to be able to push that onto someone else. And lots of people have torrent, lots of people have blast. So there's ways around it, and just find those abilities and use them correctly so that you're doing the right damage to the right model. Otherwise, it's wasted damage, and the warriors like they're there to die, so that they want that to happen. Now, on the warriors, like as I said, they're there to die. And I think a lot of people get into this sort of like whack-a-mole against the warriors where they really want to kill the warriors. And I would say like it kind of depends on the tac op that your opponent is using. But sometimes you're better off just leaving a warrior alone. And it sounds rough because they're going to kill someone or they're in a good position. But if your opponent is playing envoy and that warrior has been selected as envoy and they then move up and they're now in your territory and you're like, oh, I'm going to go charge and kill this guy and he's going to hit me in melee, and then he's going to explode on death, and he's going to do potentially like 6 damage to my model, and the next turn he's going to come back. Well, what you've done is you've killed someone who's already been an envoy, so when they come back, they're now able to be a fresh envoy, and you're now like just feeding their tac op by killing the wrong models. We're actually leaving them alive. Sure, maybe they do 8 damage because they move up and they shoot someone with their sort of like pseudo crack grenade. But by killing them in melee, you took 6 damage anyway. So, like, just be careful with the warriors. Like, ask yourself the question: do you actually need to kill them? Like, what is the impact of killing them? Now, clearly, if they're controlling an objective for crit op, if they have retrieval tokens, all that sort of stuff, then maybe where they are right now is more important. There's like a chess analogy, I guess, where the further up the board a pawn is or a knight is, like the more developed that position is, the more threat they can have. But potentially where they are, they're doing nothing for the team, and therefore you're in a better position just leaving them alive. So just be aware of that one as well. Or if you have to kill them outside of 2, reduce the amount of interaction that they're getting and reduce their damage output towards you. But something to be aware of, as I said. Now there's 2 other tips that I've got, which I'll try and quickly cover through. Being aware of their tac ops is a big thing. So if they're doing envoy, they have to declare that at the start of TP2. So you'll know that coming in. They might be playing plant banner, which is a good option for them. And like try and see where the matrix is. Try and see where their models are, where they're biased towards. Does that look like it makes sense? The other one that I like to play is retrieval. And usually, I believe that's quite telegraphed because they're either going to like be APL buffing a warrior that's then able to make the distance to reach your home objective, or they're going to have their matrix in such a position in the strat phase that they're going to be able to move someone on and get your home objective because they want to get that home objective advantage. They want to get that 5th point or potentially that 6th point, and they want to do it with an expendable warrior. They don't want to do it with anyone valuable, right? So it's not going to be like your home objective isn't going to be charged onto by a tomb crawler for them to die at the start of turning point 2. It's going to be someone expendable, well, usually. So try to see how they're positioning stuff. Like, does it look like that's what they're going for? And then think about how you're going to protect against it. So, do you have an icon that can hold your home objective? Do you have a way to make mission actions more expensive on your home objective? Do you need to put 2 models on your home objective that are spaced out in such a way that they can't kill both? Whatever it is. Or is there like a way that with equipment and that sort of stuff in the deployment step, you can make it so that actually reaching your home objective is significantly harder for them, and therefore they have to invest more into doing it. Those are the sort of things that I'd say. So think about their tac ops. As I said, it's usually those key ones. It's plant banner, it's envoy, it's retrieval. Think about that in your selection optives, in your deployment, in your equipment steps, all that sort of stuff. Is there a way that you can make those objectives harder for them to achieve? And if you can, then you're onto a winner. And if you can't, then like maybe you need to position models during your firefight phase to make it harder for them. And then finally, it's playing around the matrix. This is a really tactical one. This is entirely in your control as like on the board, moving models around. Right? Is when you move someone around, think about where the matrix is and think about where their threat models are, and if possible, position so that the matrix is no longer intervening. So a lot of people will charge someone and they'll be sat on the matrix so that they are then like being shot, taking ceaseless rerolls and all that sort of stuff. But if you can charge through and position now so that their shooters are having to shoot you and the matrix is no longer intervening, just like removing that ceaseless is a significant damage reduction benefit to you. So be aware of that and like think about where that matrix is, think about where you're positioning, where you decide to move, and just try and force it so that the matrix isn't always in the optimum position. Clearly the Canoptek player gets a vote, right? But if they're having to like move their matrix to get shots with the rerolls, then that's either costing them an activation, it's costing them CP, or it's costing them something, right? Where maybe that tempo helps you out elsewhere, and then when they move it one way, you can potentially move someone in a different direction and then play around it. So as much as they're trying to play around their matrix, you also, I think, want to play around their matrix. So take it into consideration. Think about where it is. Think about what they're trying to do with it. Are they trying to play for a retrieval? Is it like castling up around a potential banner location? And then can you potentially breach through that matrix so that now their models are all in the wrong place, or they're having to try and move closer to you to be able to get those rerolls that they want. And those are my like quick tips on how to beat Canoptek Circle. And I might try and do a bit more of an in-depth guide with some show notes or something on Patreon. So that is it. So thank you again for patrons for the support. If you listened to that and you enjoyed it and you thought that was helpful or you got something out of it and you think this was good content, then please consider dropping a like. It really is appreciated. If you think I've missed something, got something wrong, or you want to say, yep, I absolutely love the episode, drop a comment and let me know. I do appreciate that. And any sort of engagement helps the algorithm, it helps drive it to new people and get the word and message out about what events are happening in the UK, globally, all that sort of stuff, and hopefully means that Killteam continues to grow and prosper in the new edition. I'm really excited by the new balanced data slate. I think it's great for the meta. I think all of this stuff is promising and it's looking great. So I want to get more people playing where possible. If you did listen to the tactical tip and if you forgot to hit subscribe, don't worry, you can do it now. Just click the little subscribe button, click the bell, and you'll get notifications as soon as the next episode drops as well, which is great. And it's a great way of helping out the channel. So I'll finish it there, but thank you very much for watching. As I said, I might be away for the next couple of weeks, so I'll see what I can do with the Metawatch, but it might be that it doesn't necessarily happen. But I'll try my hardest to try and make something appear on YouTube to keep the content flowing so you guys get regular updates. That's it from me. Have a great week. Take it easy.
That brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully you found something new or useful while listening, and if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the bell so you get notifications as soon as the next one drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. And if you can't wait and you do want early access, we have a Patreon where you can get exclusive access to all our content ahead of time. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Just drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan, this has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next week.